continue to press forward. Thank you for all your efforts.
Thank you, William. On that concert, we do have a couple of folks who are going to be helping with ushering and hopefully manning or staffing the PA booth out in front. Don't know exactly the logistics of how that will work yet, but I did find out today there is a link for free tickets. You do have to have tickets for anyone who wants to attend the event. I will send that out either tonight or tomorrow to everybody so that you can go ahead and get tickets if you would like to attend that concert. We do have with us a guest speaker tonight, Lieutenant Shelley Allen, who is the Command Center Chief here at Sector Charleston. Several of us had the privilege of a tour of their facility this past Monday before the SAR conference. It was held Tuesday. It's a very impressive facility. They do a fantastic job. So Lieutenant Allen, do you mind coming up, and you can either sit here or stand, whatever you prefer.
You need to acknowledge the recording. Just to make it a little easier for that.
That's always so weird. I'm like, hey, on the Zoom, you know. I'll stand, I guess. Thank you so much for having me, everybody. I'm really excited to be here. I'm excited to, so I know Dawn because Morgan, her wife, works in the command center, and she asked if I could come speak to you guys. I really want to, I think, grow our partnership with auxiliary so that OXLO for the active duty side resides in the command center currently. And I will be the first to admit that I don't know that much about auxiliary around here. I'm just learning about our OGA partners. So I really appreciate the SAR conference because that was really important, OXAir and the surface with the history. It was just amazing to learn about. So I got here in July of last year, and it's a 3-year tour for me. So I'll be around for a while, and I'll give you a quick history about how I got here to Charleston, and then I want to open it up to questions too. You know, what's your concerns, and then what can we do better in the next 6 months to a year to really grow our partnership between the active duty and the flotillas that we have around here. So I came into the Coast Guard because my brother-in-law is a bosun right now. But when he was a BM3, he said, you should go to the academy. When I was in high school, you'd be really good at that. And I missed the deadline by 2 days, thank God I did that. And I ended up applying for our CSPI program, which is our college program, similar to ROTC for the other services. And I had to, my ex-husband was in the Army, so we kind of trickled on the coast and we landed in Columbia. And when he said, I want to get out of the Army, I wanted to finish college. And I was pursuing a degree in history, and I found CSPI. But you have to go to an HBCU to do that program. And so I went to South Carolina. I transferred from USC to South Carolina State University in Orangeburg, and I got my degree in history. And then I went to boot camp, went to school, and then went to OCS in 2012. I was on the Coast Guard Cutter Vigorous for 2 years. I thought I was seasick, and it was a baby. So surprise. So I had my first son. Not on board, but like while I was stationed there. Good. And I got stationed temporarily at the small boat station in Cape May, New Jersey. That's where I was stationed at the time. And I learned a lot. I learned a lot about the enlisted workforce, about small boats. I met up with some auxiliary folks there. They stood comms watch at the station. And on the Vigorous, we had a cook too. So, auxiliaries always been fascinating. I was going to bring up, we had an auxiliarist on the Eagle when I was going through OCS too, and a plug since they said an event that's coming up. The Eagle is supposed to be in Charleston, I think tomorrow. Yeah, so I was just pulling up the schedule. It looks like it arrives in Charleston tomorrow and leaves on the 21st. I'm assuming downtown. I don't really know much beyond that. But anyway, so then let's see. I had my son, was at the station, went back to the ship. finished out some qualifications, and I got orders to Corpus Christi, Texas, to the command center there. And I, like they do with all JOs, we kind of rotate between the different departments, trying to get cross trained. So I was kind of rotating through, found out I was pregnant with my second son. And so they really pigeonholed me back into the command center, which I ended up loving, the command center life and just the missions and stuff we did in Corpus. It was a lot different. It was very law enforcement heavy, a lot of international crimes and things like that. Red Snapper is surprisingly like such a thing for the cartel. Anyway, I learned a lot there. Then I got orders to land area. And that's in Portsmouth, Virginia. And that was a 4-year tour. And that was really, really cool too, because I got to learn more about Big Coast Guard there. I was a search and rescue specialist for the area, which just means I know a lot of memos and policy writing. But I got to go to Greenland for a search and rescue exercise. I got to go to Ottawa, Canada for another exercise. And lots and lots of hurricanes. I reported in 2017. And if you remember, 2017 was like the year of hurricanes. So that was just catastrophic. But again, I learned a lot. I met some really cool people. And then I got orders, which I wasn't supposed to Charleston. I changed my dream sheet at the last moment. God, I had to plan something for that. But I was so happy. I couldn't believe I got Charleston, especially because they're very near and dear to my heart since I did my tour in Corpus Christi. And yeah, so I got here in July, and thankfully I have that experience. But there's some things I really want to change. And I think a lot of it's our partner and outreach, community outreach. We just, there's just, our AOR goes from South Carolina all the way down to Georgia. You know, it's just a really fast AOR. So those are some things that are on my mind. If you have not been in the command center, you know, we welcome anybody anytime to do tours of it. But we do have 4 watch positions in there that are 24/7. 3 of them are 12 hours and 1 is 24 hours where you get to sleep in a bunk room. And communications, duration, weather, asset tracking, search and rescue planning. We do have our signs that say things auxiliary. So I think that we could get a little bit better of how we utilize you guys. Any questions, specific questions? Anybody on the line? Questions about the command center? About the Coast Guard? We do have new policy that came down about COVID. Everybody has to be vaccinated, auxiliary, to even interact with other auxiliary, coasties, all of that. So it's kind of a hot topic right now. But thankfully, we don't have to wear masks anymore for now. So anything on y'all's mind? Yeah.
Question about search and rescue.
Sure.
I would imagine it's a difficult decision to call off a search and rescue operation. What is the decision-making process? How is that determined?
That's a really good question. It's so complex. Depends on the case. It depends on the case type, the effort. There's so many things you can imagine that would go into that weather. So like if it was, you know, a person in the water, which is probably like a confirmed person in the water, is probably going to be one of our more aggressive cases. And so, you know, that comes to how, at what time of the day, what was the weather when it happened? What's the forecasted weather? What is their survivability? And we have tools to pull up person's functional time, the survivability time. And it's not the sole determining factor, but it is a factor. Will to live, you know, a person can enter the water in multiple avenues. If they're a bridge jumper, that's completely different than you fall off. Probably age would be another one. If it's a 4-year-old child, do they have a life jacket on? Media, political interests, those do play a part. Just because of the pressure of that, you know, some cases going longer than functional time or survivability time because of water pressure. from that. Where did it happen? Was it inland? Do we have a lot of, how fast did it take for our assets to go on scene? What, I mean, you could mean as detailed as what was the moon phase when the helo was searching with their NVG. It gets real detailed. We take in all those considerations. And it's a very layered process. So as we're running a case in the command center with our team, we're pretty focused on that. Of course, we're multi-mission and we're managing as many cases as it is, that we do have. We can call in extra people. But generally, you only have one major case going on at the time. I have some smaller stuff. And so it starts in our watch, and our commander duty officer, our OU, they're a team working very subject matter expert when it comes to SAR policy. Then we're briefing up our SAR mission coordinator, who is removed purposely per policy outside of the command center. Because, when you're in that command center and you're just like making decisions and going through stuff, you can sometimes get tunnel vision. So the SMC is purposely outside of it. And it depends on the position, whether or not it's a delegated authority. They're all delegated down from our parent unit, but like I'm breaking in SMC right now, but my letter, because of my position, has to go through multiple people to say like they trust, versus like our captain. So the level of expertise comes with that position. And then it goes even beyond the SMC to the next level, like our command, and then it goes up to our parent level. So there's multiple people taking a look at the case. It's a very deliberate decision to stop.
So ultimately, it comes to, after all this input, one person making the decision?
Yes, one person has what we call access, active suspension authority, if we did not find something. So, for certain cases, we have to request access from a particular individual that is holding that duty. But it goes from our watch floor up to the SMC. And then depending on the case, our captain or the person who has the authority at that time, that duty, for like a week or whatever it is, then they can either grant access or we have to, for specific cases, go to our parent unit in Miami, D7, and request concurrence. All cases are briefed up. We have a matrix to D7, and they have oversight over all parties. So everybody knows about it. And if there's questions.
Not easy, but it's a well-informed decision.
Yes, very deliberate. And there's been situations where we've briefed for access, and the person holding the duty at the time is like, why don't we run the broadcast until sunset, or have we thought about calling the local? I don't know if you all have ever heard of Bobby Connors. He's up in Myrtle Beach, and we have a lot of cases up there, and he knows a lot of folks, or even the stations locally. Like, have we called them? Have we called the marinas? Have we done what's missing? It's always a question. What are we missing here? We never want to stop prematurely. And all of those other factors go into that too. Like who report? What's the report? What's the initial report? 85-90% of the time, they're always inaccurate. The initial one. Just trying to get that information at a time. But these things happen a lot, like because we stand and watch. They're, they have these decisions and risk management conversations and stuff happen naturally. But those are all of the things we're thinking about. And most of it's per policy. We have policy that tells us a PIW is different than it's going to be for a flare case or a Mayday call. We have different ways to determine how we're going to prosecute that case, depending on the circumstances. Yeah, it's a lot. And that goes not just for SAR, it goes for LE, it goes for pollution. There's so much life on the line generally with SAR, but maybe they're not in distress too. That's another thing. Maybe they're overdue, which is just want to do, because then we're really investigators at that point, just trying to figure out what's the story, where this person go. And there's tools and things that, we have, like the Coast Guard app. You could file a float plan on that. We don't accept, as the Coast Guard, we don't accept some of these float plans. Now they call us and they're adamant about giving it to us. And wait for the call that they can return. But, our Coast Guard app is really a good tool. If you don't have it, I highly recommend downloading it on your phone. If you have I have it online. If you have an emergency, it goes right to the closest geographic. Like if I was in New York, I could call that closest sector. You can report suspicious activity on that. You can give GPS coordinates, which is really amazing. Something I was curious about for you guys is, this is something I thought about Corpus. I know Voter Safety Week and stuff, I wrote down the calendar, and I know you all do a lot of outreach and go to docs and things like that. Are we targeting any of the manufacturer or West Marine or Dick's Sporting Goods, or the places that are selling the devices that people don't register? Are we doing outreach from the get-go, not at the pier where they have their cooler full of beer, they're out the small craft advisory. Are we going to the stores at all and doing a campaign, or even just? But I'm kind of curious my own self, like, how are they advertising, registering their information? I just don't know.
So we have a marine dealer visit program, or visitation program.
Sure.
That, make sure everybody can hear me online, that is really designed at making sure we have material in those locations.
With a little box, right? I've seen those, yeah,
Right,
yeah.
and with COVID, that was stopped.
Sure.
It's picking back up now. Some are very receptive to it, including having information about the boating safety classes, other information. Others are not receptive.
Yeah.
They're happy to have us display stuff if we pay them for the space. I
Right.
think Maggie was telling me about one vendor or one store that sort of takes that position. But by and large, most are very willing to have additional information. It's just a challenge for us now to ramp up after COVID
Sure.
to get that going again. We do have the boating safety classes that started back up. It was what, 15 last month
And
14
14 registered for Saturday.
registered. So mainly just trying to improve the public education about boating safety, some of the hazards of it, especially going into this time of year
Sure.
where boating activity is going to be picking up.
Right.
Warm weather, everybody likes to get out.
Right. Just like
They were
we saw
talking
this
about
summer.
that at the SAR conference
Yeah.
where,
We're back to pre-COVID
right,
at this one, which is surprising with the gas prices.
well, yeah,
That's
well,
what they need.
yeah, that may taper off a little
Sure.
bit as the reality sets in.
Tapered off with me.
You hit on an issue that strikes home for me. I bought an e-perb not that long ago.
Oh, e-verbs.
Not a soul told me anything at the store
And only
about
having it,
registering it.
right?
I mean, obviously I know that,
Sure.
but I could have been anyone else who has no idea.
Right.
They'll just throw it in their, center console and think
Right.
that they're good to go.
Right.
And they're not. But what I was gonna ask you along the lines of SAR is how different is the process if it's a radio call versus a PLB versus an e-perb?
It's a good question. I'm like, oh, it depends. Well, position, right?
Mhm.
E-verbs, we have that. What we don't have is the registration values complete. So, or old. That is a huge challenge for the Coast Guard at large. And just the amount of money and hours that I spend on e-verbs is. This is again across the board. If it's, we have a position, I guess. You may or may not with a call with the radio. You might not get an LOB or an intersecting LOB. It just depends. So it's even those spot devices or any kind of distress devices, while we're not gonna that's technically per policy, not a distress signal thing, but we're not gonna ignore that. as we call it. I think it was 56%, I think is what one of our OS2s in the command center, he was prior Army and did a lot of intelligence, and he does stats. 50%, 56%, I think I was within the past 2 years of notifications come via phone to the command center. But they are picking up with those devices or text messaging. Of course, social media is always a huge thing, but if we had a position with e-person, it's just easier. But the problem is we get a little bit jaded because it's most of the time somebody. We had a case the other night, a DSC alert went out, and it was in the marina, and the station went by. That's an easy thing, but it's a problem when you're offshore, and now you're looking. So yeah, I just don't know. It's something I thought about in Corpus, of like, how do we attack just better at it from the manufacturer perspective? And that's way beyond just our local, but like, is there something we can do locally to at least start that conversation of like, Congress is going to mandate something down, you know? I don't know. Maybe it is. Maybe it's like a rolling schedule.
I assume from the standpoint of the voter, maybe the message is get as many calls out as you can, right? Because if it's just one EPIRB,
Yeah.
like you said, you could be jaded and think, well, maybe just someone accidentally set it off. But the EPIRB plus the radio call, plus someone else from another boat calling.
Now you're talking.
Now you're
parallel
talking
SAR.
something, right?
That's
right.
what we call parallel SAR. So EPIRBs are not handled. We in the sector construct do not prosecute EPIRB cases. Those automatically go up to our district across, and they will use our resources, but they're the one that maintain the SNC for it. Yeah, they have the computer screen,
Mhm.
but it's all like it works and stuff.
Does that delay response at all?
No,
Maybe.
a phone call.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, they're gonna call us and say, because they control launch authority for all of the air assets. So a lot of times when the EPIRB, they're gonna fly on it, they already have the launch authority for it. They may need us to go and use our station a lot of times to control those. So not really, not like that, but I do, across the board, the registration, a lot of these is so bad. And so the Coast Guard is taking over SARSAT. Our SARSAT program is having NOAA up in Maryland. They, have the administrative tasking of it. So the Coast Guard is now taking all of that.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it's a transition thing about, I think, within the next 5 years or so. They're still going to operate a lot of it, but it's going to be passed over. And NEO satellites are coming online now.
Wanted to share a story. I'm originally from District 1. And
You don't sound like you're.
so I had to turn in all my equipment. So I had an ACR EPIRB and I turned it in and they assigned it to somebody else that apparently wasn't familiar with it, must have been playing with it. So I'm
Okay.
driving home and my phone goes off and I see this weird number and I said, it must be a robocall. I'm not answering this. And then it was like every 2 minutes and then every 1 minute, the same number. I said, but I answer it. He said, this is United States Air Force search and rescue from Boston. Did you send, are you in trouble? Did you say, we're getting pulses from the EPIRB? I said, oh, I just signed it over to somebody else and I don't think it was inputted in the computer yet.
Yeah.
Then I got one right after, it came from Pensacola, Florida.
Mhm.
United States Air Force search and rescue. And I had to tell them, I gave them all the contact information and they must have contacted. That was the end of that. But that went fast like that.
Yeah.
But no, you bring up a really good point. And when I do my public education classes, I make sure they pull out their little phone and they put that Coast Guard app on there right then.
Yeah.
And I also give them the number, the number to call.
Yeah.
And And I also encourage them to get an e-permit because they're so much cheaper now than they
Sure.
used to be. They used to cost a lot of money.
Yeah.
And I said, you know, you can use it on land too, if you're hiking the Blue Ridge Trail or something.
Which the Air Force then would take all.
Yeah.
inland.
Mhm.
So I said, you know, just spend the money and get the silly thing.
Mhm.
But I think it would behoove us, especially the marine dealer visitors, when they go to like West Marine, to say, hey, you know, when you sell these things, could you take a few minutes, because they're really nice people there, could you take a few minutes and go over with the person how to register the e-perm?
Yeah.
That would, I think that would be a big help, and I certainly will be mentioning it from
Sure.
now on in my classes, because I never really thought about pushing that part. It was just getting the client.
And if you have a situation, again, I'm not quite familiar with what your surge ops and your voting stuff, but if the computer's out and like the website's up, people generally are more inclined to do it right there than like do it at home. Because it reminds me of those things you get in the mail or the things you get with the things like, oh, register, and it's the blocks and it's like those go in trash for me. The recall manufacturer stuff. That's what I think people think that is, you know, and
Yeah.
they don't, and then they don't update it when they sell it. There's a couple other features in the command center. We are now permanently using I-911 in the command center, which is we can plug in somebody's phone number and it sends them a text message and they have to accept the text and then we get tracking for them. So sometimes we won't accept the text because they think it's like Big Brother's talking, like we're trying to feed you. So, because text messages can go through a little bit easier than I think phone
Yes,
calls
they can.
and things. So that's something we have. We of course have Alistar, and it's really good for Charleston, not for anybody else, but here in Charleston, we monitor Alistar. We have the 800 megahertz, and really inland now, which you heard Commander Meyer is our conference. Inland search and rescue is generally now going to be diverted to the OGAs. They're just better equipped to take lead agency or SMC, but technically can't be per policy SMC because of the IM and there's all these guidelines. But incident commander, so we are agency assisting a lot of the inland stuff now. All of our technology and assets are really for sure.
Yes.
So we're just noticing that here in Charleston, but especially Charleston proper. Those are some big things. First light searches are changing for flares and uncores. They're not, probably not required, but we have it out for them, I suppose, if you do certain things at night. Then you can get access at night to the first light search. That's the policy. The land area SAR plan just came out, but on the 10th of this time, so I'm doing that.
My late husband and I were on Lake Marion, one of the interior lakes,
Right.
for 3 years. And, you know, we did our patrols up there. It was very interesting because I suppose you're aware that if you're a coxswain, you have to have 4 night hours every year. And we were going out on night patrol one night. It's really dark up there. You know, there's not a lot of land.
Sure.
And we called in, and I guess when we went out, we have to use phones up there. You can't use radio, it's too far. So we used a phone and we called in. They said, well, we're gonna switch you over to sector because night was falling. And so they switched us over to sector. And he said, well, you want to call us when you're back in? And I said, no, I'd like to have contact every hour. But it's really funny, depending on who you got. This was like 4 years ago, okay? On who you got, some of them would say, we're going to check with you every half hour. The normal thing is every hour. But then this one guy was saying, well, call us, you know, when you get back at the dock. I thought, well, that's going to be 4 hours from now. And I really think it would be beneficial if, you know, we spoke a lot more often. So I think it would be really good if there could be an established
Standard procedures.
standard procedure.
I know a lot of that historically has had to do with how busy they are in the command center.
Well, yes, that's good, but I'm a member of the team
4 hours
too,
is not
and
good.
4 hours is
A lot can happen for.
ridiculous. I'm sorry, it really is.
Yeah, that was a few years ago.
Yeah,
Right.
it was when Tom and I were, up there, and Tom's been gone for 3 years.
Not-
It
not
was
always.
4
Yeah, I'd
years
be
ago.
curious
It
to
wasn't on
see-
your watch, but I'm just
Sure,
saying
sure.
that it really depended when we called in.
Right.
On how often they said they wanted to check on us, and everywhere else I've ever been, and I've been in 20 years and been in ops the whole time. It's been a standard hour, and sometimes at night, it's even been it's been every half hour, but it's
Sure.
at least an hour.
Yeah.
So it just, I don't care how busy they are, frankly, they need to check on me every hour if I'm out there at night in the dark.
I don't know if I've seen our, I gotta check our comments, but I'm not sure what the standard is for auxiliary. I mean, if you're a coastal, I would imagine it's like the stations, but if you're in on a lake, I don't know why it would be so different either. So I'm curious, yeah, I wrote it down, I'll definitely check. it
No,
out.
I saw it.
Yeah, this is my new remarkable. Essentially use it more. Any other questions or comments? Yeah.
If you could give your best piece of advice to a recreational boater, the single most important bit of advice, what would that be?
Sell your boat.
That's a really good question. I mean, we often have people who just don't check the weather. On Saturday, I was on watch and it was unreal, because you know how bad the weather was on Saturday, right? We had 5 men stranded on a remote beach south of Tybee that kayaked out there, spent the night Friday night, and then Saturday they were going to kayak to Savannah with gale force winds. Like we just, and then one of them didn't want to, the helo came and we plucked 4 of them off and one refused to get off. So, but we've had that with a dad taking like teenage young kids out right before a tropical storm. So people just don't really check the weather. Small craft advisories, they don't really, especially in the harbor, you're like, oh, you're kind of closed, but there was white caps for Saturday in the harbor. I think that, and then like know your boat, know your limitations. Like I think people get a little prideful because it's vulnerable to admit, that
They don't know
they
everything.
don't quite know. And then know who to call and probably tell somebody, like this comes a lot with our fishermen and overdues, that people don't really know the plan. So they don't file a float plan. Okay, you're not gonna do that. Like your spouse will say 4 different fishing locations. So then that's problematic for us because now we're investigating it. So if people don't know. I think that probably communications. I don't know. There's all kinds of stuff. I'm sure you've heard stories like the weather, know your limitations, know your boat, and probably know what to do in the event of an emergency.
Think of all the safety plans.
Yeah, download the Coast Guard app. Any other questions? Yeah.
Would y'all do the guy who did more?
We left him. And the aircraft commander said, do not call me at midnight to come get this guy. Yeah. They tried to, the guy flat out refused. So at that point, we're not going to use of force policy to get the guy off. But then I kind of wondered, so later that night, so we had like a daytime flare and a nighttime flare. It's a wild Saturday. And while we were searching for the nighttime flare, the aircraft came back and said they had just gotten a call from the last guy saying he kayaked back into where the boat landing was. So we don't know if like he was the same one and the other ones were just freaking out and wanted to get off, or like what that situation was. He said, I have enough food and water and heat from the blankets now that my friends are gone. So. But he made it back safe. So we're like, maybe he wasn't sick.
And he called to let
He
you
called,
know.
he called the aircraft.
Yeah, which was good.
Yeah. Because we were tracking him and our captain was concerned about it. We didn't find anything on the flares. Do you guys have a good relationship with Charleston, Station Charleston? Do you guys work with them at all?
We did pre-COVID, and we're trying to sort of rebuild that.
Sure.
And get things going again.
We're in the
Trying
middle
to
of-
set up something with the band.
Good.
So,
Anything else? Questions, comments, or on the phone?
Could you explain what the command center chief does and what is exactly does that mean? A lot of people don't know what that means.
I figured I'll let you know. So it's an interesting role because it's, so the command center is really the pulse of the sector. All the operations funnel through the command center from all different departments. By trade, I'm a response officer, and all command center chiefs will be response officer. There'll never be a prevention officer who does inspections and things like that, preventative stuff, as a command center chief. But I network and I work with I work with intel, I work with prevention, response, IMD, enforcement, all of the stations, all of our OGAs, because my biggest concern and question is like, are we being a good customer service? Like, how are we as a command center providing customer service to these folks, right? Things funnel in, but we push things out too. So I handle all of the administrative tasks behind the team that we have, which is the largest division in the sector. But I'm not a department head. So it's like Captain Cole deputy, which is a captain currently. And then there's departments, response department, prevention department, and logistics department. And then these like half-step departments with the really divisions, command center, our EMFR, which is like our emergency management, and intel. And we fall under deputy, who technically is our department head. It's just this weird, awkward, like position because of the rank differences, but also networking across the board. So I think administratively that we have our team of people. I have a solid team. We have our senior chief, our two chiefs, communications chief, and our admin chief, and then a whole bunch of other people who stand the watch. So I take care of all of their needs. But then I'm a watchstander too, and then anything that goes right or wrong falls back on me, even if I wasn't on watch. So it's a really that's a complex question. It's a really busy job because then I'm also trying to do professional development too. I'm all over the place. But I really love it. I love people. I love learning stories and stuff. So I really love the networking part. That's the biggest thing. Just going to sit with prevention. Or like I asked the Harbor Patrol at the STAR conference, how can we help you? And the guy like turned around on me. I was like, I don't know, for real, we can talk about it, we can manage it. Like, yeah, so it's just getting everybody on the same team. Really, we all do the same mission. We're trying to get more casualties or SAR cases or kind of get into the concluding spot, but doing it all within the policy. That's my job. It's like make sure our watchmakers are trained. Then we have training officers and stuff too. I just have a good team. We have the biggest division though. That's probably the hardest thing. There's so many people. Sometimes we have more people than stations can do, just in our command center. And I've got other collaterals from they're watchstanders, but they're pulled from different divisions. So just making sure we're supporting that divisional need, but also getting our watches covered.
Thank you for your service.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for coming out.
I really appreciate
Thank you
that.
very much.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Do you
You
have
always
one?
wave on Zoom too. It's always like, but you don't do that in person.
It isn't very much, but we do want to
Oh,
give
thank
you a
you. I
certificate of
really appreciate
appreciation.
that.
Thank
so
you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Can we step in front of the flag and do that?
Oh, yeah.
Instead of the garbage. can.
I do have two small children. I am a mom with a sitter at home, so I'm gonna scoot.
Absolutely.
Unless you guys have any other questions or.
Thank you so
No,
much.
thank you very much for coming out tonight. A couple things that I just wanted to touch base on that were of note recently. Congratulations, first of all, to Chief Gillep's on her. There was a very nice ceremony for her last week at the station, even though it was intended to be elsewhere. Weather sort of shifted the location. That was a very, very nice event. I mentioned briefly the tour that we had done. One of the things, as we get freer from some of the COVID restrictions, if we can have tours of the command center, especially for all the boat crew, I think that would be very useful to see the other side of the people on the radios that we're talking to and get a feel for what they are going through. I think it'll help us communicate better with them. We did have the SAR conference. I was very happy to see the auxiliary be a part of that, both from the attendance, but also the ability for presentations. Will Caskey, who's the ASC for the air group, did a great job talking about the aux air program. We also had a presentation on the auxiliary as a whole by the sector ASC, Bruce Lindsay. To me, it was great for the auxiliary to be able to be a part of that on the program itself. Springtime is here. Boating activity is going to be picking up, obviously, with the weather. So vessel safety checks are certainly one of the things that's very important for us to do as much as we can. Promote the classes. We've had great attendance at the one last month, this month. Make sure we're talking about that. We want to be able to get as much enrollment in those classes as we can. VE qualifications, if you're not qualified as a VE, think about it. And I would ask you, even if you don't intend to seek the qualification, seek the knowledge. We all need to be aware of the requirements for vessel examinations. People see us in a uniform, we may get asked questions. It's good for us to know what that material is. Let's go on to the FSO reports. For the sake of time, what I would ask everybody to do is, if you have things that were not in the newsletter or updates, let's keep these reports fairly brief. We do have some more things that I want to cover tonight. And I would ask anyone who is present, if you can come up to the front for our folks on Zoom when you give the report. So Dawn, I'll turn it over to you.
Walter, anything on communications? Is Walter still there?
In there.
Walter is muted.
He's coming on.
No, nothing much. We've got one TCO candidate that's pretty close. We got to get this risk management class conducted, and then we'll be able to put that package through. That is all.
And while we've got you on the line, what about HR?
We had one candidate that started and then had to back out, and a couple of other prospects that haven't been returning calls. So we did process the West Kernos out, and that is it for HR.
And member training.
Top of the list right now is getting the risk management refresher done. So beyond that, we've got operations, communications workshops that I believe we can conduct online. We're just trying to get the RM stuff out of the way. And people are picking up some of the workshops through other units that are offering them. And then we'll have one once the big rush is settle down to catch up the stragglers.
Thank you. I do not see Philippe on.
Hmm.
No.
Philippe's birthday is today, by the way. so.
Oh, yes.
Happy birthday, Philippe.
Happy birthday, Philippe. And Scott Heisler. No. John Brazenito.
Materials, I dropped off a pile of things at Felipe's house on the way over here. Paddle, for paddle craft, the paddle reflectors, the little orange stickers that go inside the paddle craft with your address and name and phone numbers. And a number of people turned in their Mustangs and float coats. I have some from Anne Marie Graham. She turned in her EPIRB, which I still have to give to Walter. And I got something from Maggie. I got a Mustang and a float coat from Maggie McCarthy. And I just today, Deborah Lee dropped off her float coat Mustang. So that went into Felipe's garage as well. Navigation systems. Right now, we're working on how to display different bridges. Different bridges are made up of 2 causeways and maybe more. So we have to be able to tell which is it, if it's the east and west side or the north and south. So we're designating a digit on the end of the bridge file number to designate that. And the only other thing I want to add, because I found this through my DSO NS, they're going to have D train so far in Florida. I guess it's going to be at the Florida Convention Center from September 21st to the 25th. They already have a list of classes that they're going to have. I'll send that to you later on. And I didn't get a chance to put out that information about how to send a letter in the Coast Guard, or if you're using penalty stamps. I scanned it, but then I found that it came out sideways on the attachment, and most people don't have printers. So I wanted to take everything and rescan it so it's the right way so you can read it. So if you see it on your phone.
Okay, thank you. Susan?
I've already told you 14 people are expecting Saturday.
Okay, wonderful. And Bob Gerber, he's online. Any additions to your report?
There we go. Now you hear me?
Yes, Bob, welcome back.
Okay.
You see a mustache. Oh, there's
I got the dogs here with me. I don't want them barking when our guys are doing stuff. Anyway, the big thing is what I said in the report is that I have to get information from you guys when you do something. If you do a VE or a PV, let me know, because I have to send it in up the line. Dr. Phil is the only one that regularly tells me about this stuff. And so congratulations to him, but I got to hear from everybody else too. I'm pretty much limited because not being vaccinated, I can't do anything. So it's going to depend on you guys. And I would, if people are interested in especially in the VE, I'll try to arrange with some of the old folks we used to do stuff with events and everything, but it's going to take, I guess a lot of people maybe are not currently certified because they missed out last year on doing their required number of exams, and we're gonna have to try to coordinate that with somebody who is currently certified to go and go with these folks to get that done.
Thank you. Husto, do you have anything to add to finance?
Everything's in the newsletter.
Okay, perfect. Kathy, do you have any amendments to your notes or your?
I know, we just have to approve.
Yes.
Minutes.
Gosh, I
Yes,
completely overlooked
we do.
that part. We do,
That
yes.
is correct.
My apologies, I skipped the minute approval. So the minutes went out. Everyone should have received them. We do need a motion to approve those.
So move.
Susan, second.
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 All those in favor?
Aye.
Wonderful.
Opposed? Oops. Thank you, Ken.
Thank you, Gabby. Okay, and as far as Marine safety, I have nothing new to report at this time. We do have the potential to open the doors in some areas for marine safety, so I'll be getting back to you hopefully in the near future on some new developments. Operations, I have nothing additional to my report, except we do have a meeting with station. And I'll leave that at that. And then, let's see, what else? As Vice, I did announce, I believe, that we are staying here. Morgan has been stationed to the Calhoun, a new cutter that is coming here. And there's, you can read a little bit about that in my report, and I'll be sending more information as we know more about this new cutter and some opportunities that might be coming our way because the cutter's here. So that is all I have to offer in addition to the reports. I think I got everybody. Did I miss any? Oh, Bill Garvey.
I think Bill had to drop off.
He's not here.
He was here.
He was, but he had another.
He had another meeting.
meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He had another PA meeting. Anybody else? Oh, okay. Thank you.
Okay. Old business, the only two things I had on there, upcoming events, we have the blood drive on the 24th. Anybody here planning to go and donate besides me?
Probably will. I don't know if I can do it on the 24th. I have a doctor's appointment.
Okay. If you're not able to go on the 24th and you want to, just call the blood center, blood connection. They can arrange that. For anyone, whether you're giving blood or not, who is available to go to lunch that day afterwards around noonish at Dig in the Park, Daniel Island Grill in North Charleston. Please plan to join us. The concert was mentioned earlier. That is April 3rd. I'll send information on that out to everyone so that you can register for tickets if you want. Any new business tonight? Okay. Awards. The one award that, well, I guess two things I will mention. One is really an award for the Charlotte Harbor Flotilla. Commodore Wescarna, you and Jackie will be truly missed by our flotilla. Some of you are newer and may not know Bob and Jackie as well. They moved to Florida, I guess, a couple of years ago now, but had retained a membership here until they found the right fit down in Florida. COVID certainly impacted their ability to get out and do very much down there, but they have found a new flotilla and have transferred down there. Bob and Jackie were very active members of 12-6. I think Bob joined, if I'm correct, in 2002. Held many different positions during his time with 12-6. Was flotilla commander from 2004 to 2006, division commander, district captain, and then served as a division, a district commodore. I think, was it 2014? Is that correct? 2014 to 2016? I think you're muted, Bob.
I'm sorry.
No,
I was, let's see, what was I? 13 and 14, I was district chief of staff to the Commodore at that time. And then 15 and 16 were my 2 years as district Commodore.
Okay.
Not that long ago.
No, not at all. The amount of time and effort that Bob and Jackie have both put, because one of the things that I think is lost, and Jackie has had numerous roles, leadership roles within the auxiliary as well, but one of those big things is the support role that she has provided for you with all the time and effort that you had put in over the years. There was an article in the Post and Courier a couple of years ago talking about your election to Commodore, and it referenced at that point something in excess of 20,000 hours of service that you had logged. And I think that's probably just the beginning of the amount of time. So Bob, we will truly miss you. We appreciate everything that you have done for 12-6, but for the entire auxiliary as well. The contributions have made have been tremendous. Bravo Zulu to you, and thank you. Anything you would care to share, words of wisdom to share with us?
Yeah, actually, I would. Something occurred to me. I don't know if you can hear me, John.
Yes.
Can you?
Yes.
Okay, great. When I think she was a lieutenant, was making a little speech about what she did in the command center. And one of the things early in her talk was I guess the arrival of what was it was the Eagle. Yeah. Remember she was talking about the Eagle coming into the harbor?
Mhm.
I think I got that straight. Well, anyway, one year, it was about 15, 16 years ago, we had a division captain by the name of Reggie Holler. Reggie belonged to Flotilla 8, right up the highway. And in those days, 12-8, yeah, it was 12-8. And in those days, the division commanders were called division captains. And so there was a little demotion along the way. But Reggie called me up one day and he said, Bob, I think I had Walter's job at the time. I was a division vice captain. The last one, actually, I was the last division vice captain, Walt. But I had the same shoulder boards that you see Walter wearing when he's in town. And he said, we're going to go down and we have an invitation to tour the Eagle. So I said, great. And he picked me up at, I think it was the Walmart parking lot in Mount Pleasant. And he drove in and there was a launch, took us out to the Eagle was, I think it was in the Ashley, the mouth of the Ashley River there. And so it was my turn to climb on the boat and I knew enough to salute the national ensign and I saluted the officer of the deck. And as I'm stepping over the gunnels, they had a PA system, I think they were using, and I hear, now arriving Lieutenant Commander Robert A. West-Kern. I thought, who the hell is that? That guy's got my name. I couldn't believe it until I realized that they didn't have a clue that the auxiliary was coming aboard. So Walter, that was one of the big thrills of my life, being piped aboard as Lieutenant Commander. But you know, my good friend Bob Gerber always told this story to me and to anybody who would listen, and that is this. The public doesn't know that you're not active duty when you're out wearing that uniform. And even though your ODUs may say auxiliary, you get 4 feet away and they don't know the difference between you and somebody who's active duty. So it always behooves you to, be aware of that and act appropriately. And I think Bob would be the first one to say amen to that. So I learned a life story, a life lesson then, and that was my little story about that day. It was a great experience, by the way. If you get a chance to go on the Eagle, the kids that are on board are mostly cadets. They're great. I mean, they're the future of this country. Really terrific. But oh yeah, Jackie's reminded me that I'm going to miss. It was not an easy decision, even as far away as we are, to leave 12-6. There's so many memories, so many friends over the years. It, believe it or not, it's a very, very difficult decision. I don't know what's going to happen in the new flotilla, whatever it is. It'll be something I guess we can look forward to. But I will miss you all, and I think I'll leave it at that.
We will miss you both very much, and I have certificates of appreciation that I will be sending to both of you for all of the
That's nice.
work and contributions you have made to the flotilla over the many years of service. So
Well, thank you,
great role
John.
model for many of us. So, Mr. Gerber, do you have anything?
John,
Yes.
I saw something about you're doing trivia later, but I thought I would interject one quickly here regarding Wisconsin. When he and I joined, we were sworn in the same day. This was like we're talking 20 years ago. There was no Sector Charleston.
That's right.
Everything was down on Trad Street and it was not Sector Charleston. What was it? Yeah, Bob knows, and I know, and Walter probably knows. but-
Yeah, Group Charleston. Can I add to that? Just take me 10 seconds. You
Yeah.
have on your roster, if you look at your current roster, you got a member there that you probably haven't met yet. And his name is John Cameron. Mr. John Cameron was then called Captain John Cameron. And he was the captain of the port. He was the head the head honcho of Group Charleston back in those days when we joined, and he was there right through 2005. And in 2005, in fact, he signed, I have a plank owner's certificate hanging on my wall, one of my cherished memories, most cherished memories. And I don't know when he retired. It was right around 2005, 2006, maybe Bob remembers. But he's there, and he's still a member of your flotilla.
I've seen the name, but I.
Great guy.
Actually, I think he's head of the Charleston Pilots Association right now,
Is he still, Bob?
or he was anyway, yeah,
He's got to be getting up there.
yeah.
I like the rest.
Well, we do thank you again for everything you have done, and thank you for joining us tonight too.
Our pleasure.
Only other thing I will mention from an award standpoint, Dr. Poole, you will have one coming, I think, through February, the end of February. I think you had 58 vessel examinations that you had completed. So I know with ones you've already done, you've exceeded that magic 60 number. Now, how long it will take for the service award to work its way through, I don't know, but many thanks for all of your hard work with all the work you were doing up in the northern part of our territory, North Carolina. So, anyone have any further business before we adjourn and turn it over to Susan for
It
the
will be a
trivia?
very quick trivia quiz. I will not.
John, I do online.
Okay,
Yeah,
sorry.
you can do it online.
yes. Yes.
Who was that?
William, you're muted.
You-
Is that it?
Here we go.
Yeah, I got you.
John, I do have several awards that I'll be forwarding on to you, but we do have two that have their membership has come through. Beatrice Burrow and Rep Myers, their memberships have come. Oxops and or Chad Rogers, and then several others who have sustained service awards. I'll be forwarding those on to you soon.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, William.
John, I've got a thing or two out here.
I'm sorry?
It's Walter.
Yes, Walter.
A couple of things. First of all, I'd echo everything about the Waskernas and all they've done for the flotilla. We had a little bit of a debate going on about whether the office of old Bob was going to be considered vacant now and whether young Bob might be eligible for promotion. I think the jury's still out on that one, but we're interested in opinions. So, and the second item is relates to this concert that's coming up. For those of you that don't know, I'm in the process of buying a place and moving out of Mount Pleasant. And the place I'm going to is actually not too far from Summers Corner where this concert's going to be held. The concert's on a Sunday afternoon. I'll be closing on my house and starting to move full-time probably on that Thursday prior. So if anybody's interested in putting a little dinner cookout is probably all I'm going to be capable of mustering at that point. But if anybody's planning to go to the concert and would like to come by afterwards, you're welcome to swing by my place in Mount Pleasant, pick up a box or a piece of furniture and drag it out there for me. And you'll be rewarded with hot dogs, a bag of chips, and some sweet tea. Anybody's interested, let me know. Thanks.
All right. Thanks, Walter. Any other business? We can have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So moved.
And seconded by John. All those in favor?
Aye.
Meeting is officially adjourned. I shall relinquish my chair to Susan.
This will take just a few moments. To go on two teams, okay? One team, so you get 4 people, and you'll come here, Beatrice, you want to get together, and, you know, you get a star if your team wins. So I want you to really, yes.
Come up here where they can see you raised. And where do you want me, Susan?
Just if the 4 of you can make a team. Walter, I asked Walter how to do this because I don't normally. What did you do with my little thing you do? John,
Your little thing.
do I have it? I have it. Walter has it. Walter does a lot of trivia. So he informed me that I needed to make teams. I was going to do it individually, but you're supposed to get together and try to figure out the answers to these. So I'll have 2 teams here.
So
And I have.
the online team is, they collaborate online.
No, oh, you have to swear on your honor that you will not use your phone to find any of these answers.
For any electronic device.
Or any electronic device. The only device I wish you to use is your brain.
That should come on over.
Yeah, y'all need to,
Are they playing?
Yeah, they,
can play, but they're not gonna, I'll save
So
them
can
a
you
star
read
if
them?
they
That's the
win.
question. Do I need to stay here to read?
I
why don't
need,
we move over?
okay, can you, I got on here earlier. Let's see if I get on here now.
Are you going to be sharing that with the folks online?
They're welcome to play along, and they're just gonna have to be an honor, it's gonna have to be the honor system here.
You're going to have to share the screen.
No, the
On
screen
Zoom.
will only come up at the end.
Okay.
Can you hear me, people online? The screen will only come up when I'm showing the answers. I tried to do a little PowerPoint, so, you know, you get to have a visual as well. But I'm calling this the good old days. I may have only been in the auxiliary 20 years. However, my father was a Navy officer and I was born in the Brooklyn Navy Yard. So I claim many years, and almost all of this stuff is something I actually knew before. But we're going to go back to where things started. Some of these things will be Coast Guard, some of them will be Navy because there was no Coast Guard until, you know. So, first question is,
You don't want us blurting answers out, right?
no, you
Okay.
write down the answers. There are 10 questions, okay? First question. During what war was the battle cry, "Don't give up the ship," raised? And if you know the person who spoke it, that would be an extra point for your team. This is all old Navy. During what year? What year? During what war was the battle cry, "Don't give up the ship," raised? Number 2. Define the term. Here we go, crew members.
Are we supposed to be getting together to discuss this?
Yeah, you
before
can
we
get
move
together
on?
to discuss it. That's what I want you to do. I want you to sit close enough. You are distracting my people, sir. Number 2. Define the term abaft the beam. What does the term abaft the beam mean? Come on, how many crew and coxes do we have in here? Abaft the beam. What does that term mean?
I was in the Navy, I was in the National Guard. I was going to go hunting land.
Oh, boy. Number 3. I was fortunate enough to live in a house that had 3 chiming clocks. My father loved clocks. 2 of them were regular clocks, but one of them was a ship's clock. My whole life, until it finally died, I heard those bells go off. My question to you is, what times do 5 bells signify? Boy, I'm telling you, I'm not getting out on the water with any of you people.
What about number 2? We still haven't figured that out.
That's fine. Yeah, okay.
That's good enough. You can just give me one of the 3 numbers. You can give me one of the 3 times, because there are 3 times. Okay, there are 3 times.
I
I
have a
saw
ship's
that.
clock. But they have an app for a ship's
I
clock.
saw that. All right. Number 4. Yeah, just one of you. You can just give me one of the 3. I won't make you give me all 3. I know all 3.
That would have been my guess. Number 1. Oh, number 2.
Yeah, number 1, if you really think about it, well, of course, Walter knows this answer because both of us right now are reading the Patrick O'Brien books, so he knows the answer to number 1. Number 4, the word is elision. Elision. If you have to write an incident report, when would you use the word elision? Not collision, elision. I'm getting impressed. I didn't really plan on making this.
Impressed or complex?
No, impressed. You know the answer to that one. I've never had to fill out an incident report using that particular word because it would be embarrassing.
Mhm. Mhm. Write it down.
Susan, are people supposed to turn in the answers at the end or after each question?
No, at the end, dear.
Okay.
Number 5. What does the term cat out of the bag refer to? Let the cat out of the bag. The cat's out of the bag. What does that refer to? We're talking old, in the olden days.
Say something you shouldn't. Once it comes out, you can't go back.
However, in the old days, it had a more relevant association. Don't do it anymore. Except when I looked it up online, they still, yes, but in a different form altogether. Didn't think about that. Number 6, this is one thing I did not know. Irritated me. How did the term midshipman come about? My father went to the Naval Academy. He was a midshipman. How did the term midshipman originate?
I mean, that's close as I would come up with.
Actually, when it's so logical, when you think about old sailing vessels, because this is all old sailing vessels, guys. All of this refers to the good old days, you know, like the Eagle. But I did not know that. I had no idea. And it's like, gee, duh, of course, it makes perfect sense. Okay. The next two questions refer to Alexander Hamilton, who, as we all know, was the first, was the founder of the Coast Guard, originally called the Revenue Service. Alexander Hamilton was not only the founder of the Coast Guard Revenue Service, July 4th, 1792, as the Secretary of the Treasury, that's what he was at the time, but he was also the youngest US cabinet minister, which I did not know. Number 7, on what Caribbean island was he born?
I just read this.
That's so easy.
And the second question concerning Alexander Hamilton is, what reminder of him is still included on today's Coast Guard uniforms?
I didn't hear that. We were still discussing
I'm so
7.
sorry. I will wait until you're finished discussing.
Singing the music in my head, but it's not in there.
I figured somebody would have seen Hamilton.
Yeah.
And would have gotten that. The second one, the second question, you wouldn't get from Hamilton. Because it came later. I guess if I want to do question number 8 absolutely correctly, it would be, on what uniform is there a reminder of Alexander Hamilton to this day? This, once again, is specialized knowledge. So that would be number 8. Number 7 is, what island was he born on in the Caribbean? And number 8 is, what reminder of him is still included on today's Coast Guard uniforms?
Can I
On
add
a
can I add an 8B question?
No.
I'm upsetting the whole game.
That's quite all right. What?
But just to make them, what bank, what American bank was founded by Alexander Hamilton
I don't have a clue.
in 1784?
Now, you see, that could be the next,
That's next week.
that's
the
next,
month.
yeah, when somebody else is doing it. Okay,
It's a bonus question.
yeah, well, I have a bonus question if we have a tie. I have a tiebreaker. Okay. Question number 9. Most of you, Beatrice, you won't have a clue who this person is, but everyone else here should probably know Alex Haley, who wrote the book Roots, which was made into a mini series on television. He became a very famous author, African-American. Did you know this, which I knew? Alex Haley, author of Roots, served in the Coast Guard from 1939 to 1959. He was in the Coast Guard for 20 years. Okay. But you didn't know that. I did, because I lived in New Bern and he was stationed there at one point. Okay. What was his first duty when he joined the Coast Guard in 1939? What was his first duty? Because it's interesting. And the second one is, what current position was created for him during his 20 years of service? A brand new position was created just for him. It goes on today, but he was the very first one who held that position. Now, he was a writer, so, you know, that might be a little clue.
Nope.
Now we're on the honor system here. Let me go over the 10 questions, and then I'm going to do a little visual.
Too quick.
Too quick?
Too quick.
All right,
Yeah, we're still back on 8.
all right. Number 1, during what war was the battle cry, "Don't give up the ship" raised?
I wasn't sure. I don't even remember the question.
It was the
Or
uniform.
Hey,
uniform
what
one.
is about a current Coast Guard uniform? It's probably only been current, oh, I don't know, about 15 years. I don't think it's been older than that. I could be wrong about that, but I don't think so. The
I
incident
had to go
report.
through Morgan's closet in my head. It's not working.
Okay. Number 2 was abaft the beam. Number 3, 5 bells. I think people actually got that one. No, it's a lesion. You're on the right track back there. Number 5, the cat out of the bag. What does that mean? This is old time. Remember, we're talking about sailing ships. The old Navy, British Navy, and United States Navy. Rats, they had rats on board. They didn't have mice. And the midshipmen would eat them when they were hungry. They cooked them and eat them.
It goes along the keel.
They cooked them. Number 7 referred to Alexander Hamilton, the island of his birth. Number 8 was the Coast Guard uniform. Number 9, Alex Haley, what was his first duty? And number 10, what current position was created for him during his 20 years of service? Which is really, considering the time from 39 to 59. I mean, he went, it was quite an honor. And for an African-American at that time, when diversity was not a really big thing, it was a big deal. Okay. Here we go. Come on, buddy
I
boy.
might have been culinary specialist.
It's 2 parts. It's when he started.
That was the first question, and what did you finish is the second question.
Okay, this is the honor system. I'm not going to grade them. You guys can grade yourselves, but I expect you to do it honestly, of course. Are you ready? Okay, here we go. I'm waiting for the slide to come up. Is there a time that it's going to come up, please? Thank you. Don't give up the ship. The War of 1812. It was the dying cry of the U.S. Chesapeake Captain James Lawrence. He said that and then he died. You're doing Patrick O'Brien books.
And what happened to the ship, Susan?
It was captured.
They gave it up.
Yep, they gave it up. They didn't pay any attention to him because he was dead. They said, hey, we're done. That battle, was it what, 20 minutes? Was it that long, Walter? It was pretty quick.
The guy picked a fight with the
Wrong people.
best gunner in the British Navy. Yeah, it was short.
Yeah, short and not too sweet. Since Walter and I had only discussed this like 2 weeks ago, I figured he'd get that one. Okay, I bet Walter knows about the beam. Come on. Oh, okay, abaft the beam. is a position that's farther aft than 90 degrees from the bow. So if you're looking at the bow, here's 90 degrees, it'll be behind you. It's abaft the beam, abaft the widest part of the boat, more than 90 degrees.
Yeah, that, sorry.
Okay. Oh. 5 bells. I had to pick a good one. I mean, 8 bells would have been too simple, you know, so I did 5. 2:30, 6:30, and 10:30. If you had any of those, you got it right. The bells were used for watches. Okay. 8 bells
The ring on the
took
half hour.
over a 4-hour span. So if it's an odd number, it's a half hour. Even number, and you start 12 is 8 bells, 12:30 is 1 bell, 1 is 2 bells, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That's the way it goes. I know from personal experience. This was my favorite. I found a great picture for this one. Elision. A moving vessel hits a stationary object, such as a pier or rock. It is not a collision, it is an allision, because there's really only one of you involved. The other one didn't do anything, it was just there. I've had an allision with a tree occasionally or a mailbox, so that would be an allision also. But I really like this picture. I don't know if you can tell or not, but it was caught at the moment of impact and you can see stuff flying everywhere. So I thought that was very interesting. Cat out of the bag. Cat of 9 tails was used in ship's punishment back then. If you look online today, they have other uses for it, which I was not expecting to find on my little search, my innocent little search.
Don't need to use my computer for that.
Oh,
Yeah, clear your search
geez.
history.
Woo. I'm going, oh, wow, I never thought about that, but you know. I lived such a sheltered life. Midshipmen, I love this one. They were the young officers who berthed in the middle of the ship. It's the term midshipman. The captain and the senior officers were in the stern. The crew was in the bow, and they had these young, very young men hopping up and down and doing everything and learning how to navigate, who were officers. Some of them were 11 and 12 years old back then, but they berthed in the middle of the ship. So they were the midshipmen. It's one of those things, G-duh, you know, once you know it, you know why you know it. Okay, I don't have a pointer on this, but he was born on the Caribbean island of Nevis, which is right next to St. Catherine's. In fact, Tom and I ran into an auxiliarist walking on St. Catherine's one day in the little center of town. And he had been up to training center at Yorktown to give a speech or a lesson on Alexander Hamilton. I thought that was neat. I have a picture of Tom talking to him. Speaking of pictures of Tom, had to throw one in. The kilt that the Coast Guard bagpipe band wears is the Hamilton tartan, except that they widened the white stripe. And Tom was a founding member in the band, so it couldn't have been more than 20 years ago that they adopted the tartan. You don't have to be a band. I don't know if it's still true or not, but at one point you did not have to be a band member to order the tartan. I don't know if they've changed that or not, but at one time you couldn't. So I thought that was interesting. Alex Haley, you were talking about culinary chef.
Mhm.
He joined as what was then called a mess attendant. Okay. And if you'll, can you see, I'm sorry, these pictures aren't great, but if you can see, he's got, I can't really tell how many stripes he's got on his arm, but it's a fair number. And they created the
That's
position
close.
of chief journalist for the Coast Guard for him, and this vessel is the Alex Haley. It was named for him. Okay. Let's see now. All right. How many?
6.
6. Bad, not bad. Remember, I knew all this because I've lived it for 70 odd years.
Don't trust the officers.
Yeah, true. All right, back there. How many did we have?
I'm still counting.
Walter, how many did you have? Walter,
I didn't know about the tartan. I thought he was born on Castaway Cay.
Sorry.
Craig, how'd you do?
I just kept track in my head. I didn't write it down. It didn't do too bad. I think I did a little bit better than a 6, probably a 7.
Very precise.
We were close, but not quite there.
yeah, you got them backwards. Yeah, but remember, he didn't end up being a cook.
Right, no,
He
we
ended
had
up being a
his
journalist.
Historian
Yeah,
or
historian.
archivist for number 10.
I'm not sure I really heard that, but I heard people laugh. So it must have
Craig,
been
here's your
good.
prize for winning. Help yourself.
Yum, yum.
Oh,
I think I got more
I
than.
want a
two.
cookie.
We'll save them for you. By the time we see you, they won't be very good, probably.
Probably not.
So for bringing in refreshments.
There probably won't be left.
Well, let me open this so that, because you guys each get a star and you get to pick your stars. But see, all this little trivia stuff. I've never done one of these before, but I thought, no, let's just do something different. Would you care to pick a star and a color? Itty bitty little star.
Yep.
Look at you people are so modest. Pick a bigger star, please. Thank you. There we go.
It's like an approved decoration in the next menu.
It's not hardly.
Thank you, Susan.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.
That was fun, Susan.
Interesting.
Thank you all.
Thanks, folks.
Thank you. I had forgotten how to make a PowerPoint. I had the worst time transferring pictures and stuff. I was being